I do know you're so right. There's so many young singers that are been influenced by the Clark sisters. And right now they're in the press right now because of something that's been going on with Beyonce's latest album, right? I know you just picked up your box. Your box came. Yes. You had box number what from
box
her?
Number 4.
Yes, box number 4. What was in it?
So what was in it was a t-shirt and a CD. The song that you are referring to is a song titled Church Girl by Beyonce from her Renaissance album, Act 1. And a pastor who shall remain nameless was saying that like the song was, I guess, inappropriate, but it's a Beyonce song.
Okay. I'm gonna say the pastor's name. Pastor Wooden of Church of God in Christ came out and said, that is a song that should not be listened to by young women in the church. That it was actually, something that, he didn't really consider it a good song at all. So I read the lyrics. I mean, first of all, if a pastor tells you that the lyrics are already racy, I already know not to listen to it right away. Let me go read the lyrics first. So I listened to the lyrics. I read the lyrics first. And I said, ooh, he's right. These are a little dicey lyrics. And then I did listen to it. If my bishop can listen, one of the bishops can listen to it, I can listen to it, So I listened to it. And because I know what stage Beyonce is in her life right now as a mother, and then I listened to the song again, and I had to be very clear. I listened to it twice, and after reading the lyrics and listening to it twice, it was very much an artistic expression that if you're not aware of the nuances of what she's doing, you would think that it's something that no one should listen to, yada, yada. It's actually a cautionary tale. And I'd say that from a person that is artistic and also comes from the English background. If you look at it for what it is and you know where she is in her life right now she's a mother and she's a wife. But she's singing this based on being a single young woman, right? Single young women that had heartbreaks. Her friends around her have had heartbreaks. She's a church girl. She calls herself a church girl in the song, but she believes it's Saturday night. It's time to have fun in the club, right? So she believes going in the club, dancing all suggestively, not thinking about church or anything. We'll think about church in the morning. We have to go to church, right? Then you're a church girl that's out here having fun, being free. If you really listen to the lyrics or read the lyrics, you will realize she's talking about those lukewarm church girls in the church that profess to be, I'm a certain way at church, but then they're a certain way, in the street and with their peers. And there's this dichotomy that's going on. Like you're having two lives represented. You're being one way with your friends and another way with the pastor and people in your family. And you're struggling basically with those two sides. But you're choosing to have a double life. You're choosing to be two ways. And if you're going to be considering yourself a church girl, and you know what the word church girl means, what it's supposed to mean, and you know how the church looks at that term when you say, oh, so-and-so's a nice church girl, and you say it in church, it means a certain thing. And there's another thing by saying church girl in the world. And then if you are looking at that definition as being something that you can be both, you can be in the world and you can be in the church, that's what a church girl is. Or when people say church girls are loose or church girls, they're dropping it out here like it's hot, just like the secular girls. If you honestly believe the definition of the church girl is someone that is actually toggling between two realms, their spiritual life and their carnal, life outside, then okay, you're one of those people that believe that. Good for you. Then there's other people that, we had 4 babies or 5 babies blessed in church today. And they've grown up in the church and they've really dedicated their life to the church. They might even be in ministries. They might even want to see themselves as a pastor. I just talked about Reverend Dr. Jacqueline Thompson. She's, a great leader in the Baptist faith. So she considers herself a church girl. I consider myself a church girl. There's a lot of definitions going on here. And Beyonce's song is making it perfectly clear. Her song is the anthem for the girls that are living the double life, that are going to the club on Saturday and they had their heart broken, but they're going to be free in the club and do what they want and then still go to church. Yes, there are young women like that. They exist. And they come to the church every Sunday morning. They are right there too, with the ones that have never stepped a foot in the club, with the ones that have never cursed, with the ones that have never gotten tattoos or tattooed some guy's name on their thigh or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. All she's doing is showing a light on it. Right now, Beyonce's a mother of children and married. She's not in the clubs on Friday nights singing about being free after a heartache. She has no heartache right now. She's married, she's happy. But she knows there are girls out there that feel repressed by their religion, right? That feel like they want to be with their friends, partying and dropping it like it's hot and et cetera, so forth. And yet they're still in the church. They need to make up in their mind who they really are, because there's many young people out here that says, oh, so-and-so's a church girl. And they go, oh, no, not really. I just saw her in the club. Oh, not really. I just saw her smoke a blunt and drink a 40. Oh no, she's a church girl, but not really, because when she leaves the house, she changes her clothes in the bathroom at school and she wears something totally different around school all day. There are lukewarm young women out there. So Beyonce's mom probably made a lot of people in the Christian community mad. People were probably saying the Clark sister should be upset that she used her song. And, I get where Bishop Wooden is going. But all I'm saying is, let's give Beyonce the artistic credit she's trying to put out there. One, she didn't write the song for the girls in the church that are really in the church. Let's be perfectly clear. The ones that are, grown up and they're doing everything right and they have their life totally dedicated to God, she didn't write the song for them. She wrote the song for the ones that are pretending at church, the ones that are living the double life, that are partying in the club and out with their friends, getting rid of their heartache that way. And every young woman has probably thought about doing things secularly, getting rid of, if you have a heartbreak, rather than going to your pastor or your church leader, you're going to go to your girlfriends. She's going to say, let's go have a drink. That happens. All of us have had times where we're in between both worlds. She's just saying, this is an anthem for the ones that are happy where they are between the two. They want to be with their friends and dancing the latest dance and the guys looking at them, as they're dressed suggestively, but they also want to still be in the church. They haven't made up their mind really where they're at yet. They're figuring it out. And while they're figuring it out, Beyonce said, here's the perfect anthem for you, Mm-hmm. And will she make money on it? Yes. It's already number 22 on the Billboard charts. I'm sure it's going to keep going up because the more people are talking about it. But she's not trying to lead people down a path of fire and brimstone. This is artistic work. This is the month of I press my gifts, right? Yes, she cursed. Yes, she's talking very lewdly, the way they would do in that environment. She's speaking the language of that place, of those clubs, of the people that like to live in that manner. She's reaching them where they're at. And some of them are going to see it as Beyonce's giving a gold star to their behavior. Like, yeah, you're doing the right thing. That's not what she's doing. At least that's not how I interpreted it. I interpreted it as, this is going on. It's almost like when someone does a 48 hours documentary recently and they go into the bowels of New York City and show the drug trade. Right. They're not endorsing the drug trade. They're showing the drug trade. She's doing the same thing. She's saying lukewarm church girls are here in the club. And we all know they're going to be up in church singing in the choir or sitting in the pews or, in Sunday school with the rest of us on Sunday morning or with the saints on Sunday morning. Because some people is like, I'm in the club, but I ain't going to church. I know I ain't trying to have lightning strike me down walking through,
Right. I feel like we need to redefine, because the way that I took the song was that, yes, it is about the song is about a woman that is toggling between what the definition of a church girl is and someone that's in the secular life. But I feel like we need to redefine.
I don't think she's toggling between the two. I don't think that's what Beyonce's saying. Beyonce's saying young women are looking to free themselves from heartache and have fun and feel like that's a part of themselves. Being in the club is a part of themselves, just like being in the church is part of themselves. And she's saying that young woman is saying it's okay to be in both worlds. And that's a definition of one type of church girl. It's the lukewarm. God said, do not be lukewarm. That's the lukewarm church girl. She's choosing to be between the two. And then you have other women that are defining themselves as church girls in the church, and they're not tolerant. They're totally 100% centered on God and doing everything God's way.
But how do we know if the person that goes to the club is technically a quote unquote lukewarm church girl?
You don't. That's why her song is so brilliant. She's talking to the ones that know that they are in between the two. They know they're going to the club tonight, and then they're going to sneak into that window and go into bed and get dressed up in the morning and sit down for family breakfast before church like nothing ever happened. She's talking to that one that knows they are in between satisfying their friends or trying to look okay with the world, but yet also being represented at church. And we've all been there. If you grew up in a church in any sense as a young person, everyone knows how you want to try to get in and get along when you're in high school and in middle school, and not be labeled the goody. You want to just be seen as just you. So some people take it a bit far. It's more than just people thinking they can talk about anything around you, but it's also they can smoke around you. It's also that you can do a blunt with them. It's also that you could, have sex with them outside of marriage. It's also, some people keep pushing the envelope that way, and they're okay. They're okay. They're saying to themselves, I'm free. I'm doing my body what I want to do with my body because I'm free. And they're entitled. That's their free agency. They're entitled to do that. Beyonce is not endorsing it. That's the one thing I people don't get. When I got it was, she's saying this happens. She's saying, she's singing from the viewpoint of a young woman that's in the club. If you listen to all the lyrics, she's talking about being in the club and doing those things. We all know today Beyonce is not in the club. She's home with her children and her husband. She's not single, singing about heartbreak and trying to dance it away. But she is singing about a time when maybe she was in between, or women that are in between the two. And that's how they were existing. God still loved them. They were still welcome. She didn't say they weren't welcome in the church on Sunday morning, but they were in between two different worlds, and it still exists right now. It didn't go away. Just because the music's changed and the imagery might be a little more raunchy, it's still there. There's still people that are, wanting to be accepted by both. I want to be accepted by the world, and I also want to be accepted by people in church.
I guess I'm just confused because I just honestly.
How did you take the song?
I honestly took the song as like a redefinition of what a church girl is. Like, it's not like, because for whatever reason, a lot of churches for like a long time wanted to put this image of, oh, you can't consider yourself a church member if you're doing X, Y, and Z. And I'm just like, that's not always the case, because there's people like DMX, and he was rapping what he was rapping about, but that man was super religious. Everywhere he went, he was talking about God and praying for people and everything else. But how does that make him less of a Christian because he doesn't fit the stereotype?
Now, you said you think she's talking about redefining what a Christian girl is. So that means you think she's saying a Christian girl is what definition then? So
to me, the way that I took the song was, you can still be a church girl and go to church on Sundays and have a relationship with God, but you might go to the club and dance about heartbreak, and you might be living, or you might be in a secular world, but it doesn't make you any less of a church girl because you're doing these things.
Well, if she was just talking about dancing, I could see what you're saying, but when you read the lyrics, she's not just talking about dancing, going and dancing with girlfriends and blowing off steam. That would have been a different kind of song. This is basically, you are definitely being suggestive. You are definitely, wanting a guy to have sex with you. You're definitely pushing the envelope and doing a lot of things on Saturday and Friday night before you go into church. She said the next night. So this talking about Saturday night. She's talking about Saturday night. And I can see Bishop Wooden why he was so upset. Because if you look at it as she's defining all church girls, it'll make any religious leader get upset, because she's not defining all church girls. Yeah, she's saying there's a type of church girl, that is their life. I do believe we are on the same page on that point. She's saying there's a type of church girl that exists, that parties with her friends, blow off steam, wants to be free in her body, doesn't want to be judged or looked as being repressed. And that same person wants to go to church on Sunday morning.
Right. That's how I'm taking it.
Yes, and I think we're in agreement. That is one definition that she's giving. What she's not doing is redefining the term church girl. She's giving one aspect of a church girl. Right. Because just like a person can say, I'm a lady, and they behave a certain way. And you go, oh. And another woman says, I'm a lady, but she's cursing somebody out in the parking lot. Both of them are ladies. They are. Just talking about two different definitions.
Right, right.
That's all she is talking about another definition. That's how I looked at it.
Right. So then I think where I'm like kind of like concerned and like confused about, it's like, okay, like why is a pastor making this song into like a negative connotation when, like you said before, she's just artistically expressing like one type, well, not one type, like a, I don't know how to say it, because obviously there's not just one type of church girl, there's different types.
She's talking about a particular type.
Yeah, so she's talking about a particular type of church girl. So seeing as though, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought pastors and bishops were trying to get everyone into the church so they can like, right.
He is. You're absolutely right. He is. So his biggest concern is because he was looking at her song through the filter of she labeled all church girls.
Oh, I didn't think like that.
No, he looked at it when you listen to what he's saying basically that, she took a song that was done by a Clark sister. I think it's by the Clark sisters, actually.
Yeah.
And she sped it up and she used it in a song that was not elevating God. And seeing that those voices that we just talked about in the screening room with the movie that we selected for this week, seeing that those voices are so anointed, and the whole mission of the Clark sisters being formed by Sister Maddie was about them elevating God. It was a bit of a slap in the face because he wasn't under the impression that one, such anointed music should be used for that kind of a song. Two, the fact that she took the term church girls and gave the world on her platform, gave a world a way of looking at church girls differently from how the church is trying so desperately for our young women to see themselves. And thirdly, it's like, there's so many people in the church that elevate her and think the world of her that they don't see the harm this can cause for young girls running around singing this song. They're not really seeing, they're thinking it's cool, the things that she's saying because of the times we're in, and rather than seeing that words have power. Just like we talked about negative words, how they can do over in your head, make you think a certain thing about yourself. Well, also song lyrics. You run some song lyrics through your head enough, you think, well, what's the wrong? Why can't I go and party in the club and have wine and stuff with my girlfriends? And why can't I wear this around young men and, and dance my, my pain away in the club with my friends? Why can't I do that? You can do that. You can dance and have fun with your friends, but do we expect you also to be, promiscuous or, also become, a drug addict or an alcoholic and have a really hard lifestyle of partying? No, we don't expect that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you're still accepted. God accepts all of us, flaws and all. He accepts all of us. Right. But we also don't want young women growing up that idolize. He felt like women idolize and they actually look at her a certain way and will, rally to her defense because she is Beyonce, and will not do that same thing for the word of God. God has said we need to all behave a certain way. There is a Proverbs 31 woman that God said would be the woman that, the world should be elevating. Not the ones in the club, but the ones that is, a light to herself, her community, to her husband, to her children. Mm-hmm. That woman is not being as elevated. So I think for him, he was on the pulpit of, as a bishop, talking to his flock, talking to people that are under his guidance, his leadership, as God has put upon his heart to say to his constituents that it's not a song that he wants them to really get into and support for the young women in his church alone, if not for the young women in the community. Now, he on his platform is being very, very vocal about it because Church of God in Christ is a very big church, and he's a bishop of notoriety, and a lot of people hear his word and want to hear his word. So he said, if she can be just as vocal, I'm going to be just as vocal, and it threw some people off because people were like expecting the church not to say anything, because all kinds of church terms have been used in ways that were not correct in secular music,
Yeah, I was gonna say, because I was just like, I've heard other people use different church, whether it was samples, whatever, and I haven't heard anybody else sit there and get the same type of criticism that she's getting. And then I feel like too, that also goes back, because I feel like this is like a bigger conversation, like not only with just Beyonce, but like when certain people like to say, oh, well, don't support this and don't support that. I'm like, well, where's the parents? Because the parents are like, Beyonce's not raising their like these kids. She has her own kids to raise. So where are the parents? Because, for example, obviously, like, even though I still do watch it, the VMAs, like there was a point in time, I will never forget it. There was a certain artist, Britney Spears, when she came out, and she had this had to be like probably the early 2000s, and she did a performance where she did like a striptease, and she went from wearing like a black pantsuit to like basically like a nude, like it was like a nude bodysuit. Right, yeah, right. And obviously you were there watching it with us, but you also said too, this is entertainment. We do not walk outside and take off our clothes. She can do that because she's Britney Spears, but you will not be doing that outside the house.
Well, yeah.
Or period.
Parental advisement is very important when raising young people. That's true. You can't be lazy when it comes to the things they're getting inundated with. Whether it's things you're sitting there and watching with them, like we watched the award ceremonies together when you were growing up, or it's something that they come in the house and tell you about, or that you witness or you discover on their smartphones. Whatever it is, you have to be a parent first and foremost. And it's a hard job because you feel like part camp counselor, part, drill sergeant. You're just like, you're their best friend. Sometimes you're their worst enemy, It's not an easy job, and it's not for the faint of heart. But also to expect Beyonce to have the same, to be giving messages that you would hear, like you do contemporary gospel songs on our show.
Right.
I don't expect to see Beyonce, having the same platform as one of the Clark sisters.
Right.
I really don't. Now, she can do a gospel song here and there. I know that. But she can even put out a whole gospel album next year for all I know. Mm-hmm. But it's not for me to say that, she is a gospel singer, secular singer. She's winning people for Christ or trying to pull away souls to Satan. I can't say any of that, Right. What I can say is she's an artist. She's a creative. First and foremost, she's a creative. Right. And if you don't come to her works that she does, if you choose to pick them up, and if you choose to listen to them, I knew when I listened to Pastor Wooden, and I said, if I choose to read her lyrics or listen to this, I have to be open to the creative process. And if you are a creator, and I am, I know that everybody's work, they put a certain amount of energy into before they present it to the world. Right. And Beyonce, she's like any other artist. She thought of something she wanted to do, and she decided to put it out there. Then I also have to see in what way is she, since she's a singer, which way is she doing this? Is she doing this as a narrative where she's actually presenting someone else's story? Is she doing this as herself being in the position of the commentary that's going on? Like, if she is singing from first person, is she singing from third person? How am I supposed to look at this? Because that tells you a lot. Mm-hmm. If she's singing it from first person, and in real life, she's not that age where she's in the club singing about heartache anymore. Then this is something that's either in her past or in the present of other young women where she's putting herself in that position. Right. And once I look at it that way artistically, I know, okay, she's giving a message and an anthem to the girls that are in this position.
Right.
She wants them to dance and party and be free, because that's the mindset of that young woman at that time in her life. Now, this young woman that's going between church and the club, eventually something's going to hit her, and she's going to have an epiphany either in the club or in the church.
Right.
And she's going to make a decision if she wants to keep that dual life going, or if she's going to be totally a daughter, of her God and her Christ, her Lord and Savior, and leave the club stuff alone because that season has passed in her life. Or if she's going to say, I can't be between the two, and I feel more comfortable in this life than I do in that one.
Right.
We all have to make those decisions for ourselves. And I think Beyonce's just shining a light that there are young women that are right in the middle, in the gap. And we as church people can do one or two things. We can demonize them and push them further into that. Or we can say, we know you party all night and it's okay. Come sit right here next to me. You're going to enjoy this word that Pastor Quick is going to give us, and let them feel welcome and let them feel okay. we have a duty as a church to say, we know you exist in between the two. Right. And there's a lot of people that, yes, church girls are in between the club and it being in church, but there's other people in between alcoholism and being, sober. And there's other people in a position of, I want to kill my parents or do something bad to people, but I also want to take my medicine and not feel that way and not think that way. There's a lot of us having two different things wrestling with us. Wasn't Brandy, she sang about being bipolar, but she's not bipolar.
This is true.
Artists do stuff all the time just to show a light on it. Like I said, like a 48 hours documentary. She's showing a light that we do have church girls and boys that are in between, right, being, stout and faithful in their faith and showing that part of themselves and how much they love the Lord and want to do this, and the ones that are in the club, or they're in the club and that's the life they really want, and they're pretending at church because it's better for other people to think they're in their faith. Right. She has pastors in her family, I believe she's a real church girl. So she knows what it's like to be, being a pastor's kid. A PK is the hardest thing because you're inundated with church stuff since you were born, but yet you're trying to find who you are.
Right. I just got annoyed, just to express myself and explain. I just got annoyed because when anyone has a flock of people that they are, preaching to, and they say, oh, don't support such and such, like, I felt like it was judging, because I'm like, what about those people that are literally in between those two worlds, whether it's it's an alcoholic trying to get sober, whether it's a certain type of a church girl that's toggling between the two worlds. So are you saying that they're not going to be accepted in your place of worship? If that's the case, that's not cool either, because I thought in 2022, we are trying to tell everyone, hey, regardless of where you are in life, if you are trying to have a relationship with God, we want to be a part of that walk. But to put out messages like that, I felt like was a little like irresponsible in a sense.
I can understand why you feel that way. I really honestly do. But I want you to, if you get an opportunity, to listen to Bishop Wooden again, but not from the viewpoint of him putting down someone that you love her music and you think she's a great artist. Put that aside. And this time when you listen to him as a father over a flock of young women. And he's concerned about them seeing a certain lifestyle looking more appealing than being a daughter of Christ. Look at it as a man that has been charged to lead the saints that are under the sound of his voice in a certain direction. And he's worried about them coming off the trail because they think it's cool and they think it's hip, and they're singing this song or singing songs like it and thinking that it's okay to be in between both worlds like that. He saw it more like an anthem for all church girls because it's called Church Girls. He wasn't looking at it the way I'm looking at it. Right. I had to do a little bit of a deep dive analysis to it and say, let's really look at the artist. Let's look at what she's saying, what she's presenting, and why she's presenting it. And can it be seen from more than one lens? The best songs and the best poems, you can read more than one way.
Right.
When you first read it, you can say this, oh, this is a young girl that's saying, church girls, this is what they do. That's surface. That's surface level of a poem, of a song. If you take it deeper and actually look into it, you can say, oh, okay. Because she had a choice. She could have sang this from the viewpoint of being a third person, talking about she's a church girl, she did this and she goes party. She could have done third person through the whole thing and it had a totally different connotation. She purposely chose first person. One, we don't know if it's because something in her past where she was in between the two, or she wanted to identify more with the young women that are her fans that are purposely in between the two stages. Right. And I think it's absolutely brilliant because one, it gets everybody talking.
Right, that's what I said.
Two, it makes mothers and pastors and fathers say, okay, is my daughter struggling and in between both of these, trying to please her friends and what's cool and what makes her feel like she's accepted by them, but at the same time, trying to be okay with what we expect and what's needed from her in church.
True.
And does she feel repressed by that being between two? Has she had heartbreak? The heartbreak Beyonce talks about could be heartbreak from romantically, or it could be heartbreak, could be church hurt. If you depends, and people have had church hurt where they're like, I'm tired of the church people and I'm doing this now.
Right.
So if you really look at her song, and Beyonce, I could be completely off. You know, to anyone that's a Beyonce fan, Beyhive, don't come at me. I could be off in what she represents and what she's saying, but that's how I read it as I read the lyrics and as I went into the deep dive that I was doing as a person that looks at words and the connotations of words and the imagery and all of that as a fellow creative. That's what I was picking up on it. It was a commentary on young women that are in that part in their life. And it could be seen as an anthem to those that are in that part, and that's where they want to be. They could sing it and be like, yep, I'm that kind of church girl. And there could be other young church girls that are going, no, I hate that song because that's not who I am. And that's fine. That's okay too. I think that's okay too. That's how I'm interpreting it.
Yeah, because to be honest, it was like when I heard the whole body of words, I was not sitting here again because I like art, but like when someone just takes like a song and all of a sudden they're making something that to me, when I heard it, it was like, okay, it was an innocent song, and now all of a sudden it's like this bigger thing, and I'm just like, you're taking something. And again, I will go and I will listen to his sermon so I can, understand what he was trying to say. But when I first read the headline and I read what he said, I was just like, this is not like, why? I don't know why, like for certain artists, their work is always like criticized, or it's always like this notion of, oh, they're trying to push like devil music or whatever, but then there's other artists that are doing far worse, and people always want to like give them the benefit of the doubt and praise them and never want to talk about what they're doing wrong.
Oh, well, let's be perfectly clear. There's a spectrum to sin. So whether you're doing a little or a lot, it's all sin.
Right.
But as far as the artistry, he has every right to say, I don't like how she presented that information. She could present that information another way. He could say that, and I don't have any problem with that.
Right.
But that is the form that she wanted to do. I have no idea what her video is going to look like. It probably shocked the world too. I have no idea. But I do know she is saying this exists.
Right.
This kind of, young woman is out here, and there's many of them. Enough that I have an anthem song for them. And if the church doesn't take it as a clarion call that we need to start doing something to bring these girls back into their faith and feeling comfortable where they don't have to do both, but when they have heartache, when they've had church hurt, when they've had relationship hurt, they don't have to dance it away in a club or get a tattoo from a guy with his name on them. They don't have to do certain things like that. If you don't see it as she's just shining a light, and you want to look at it as she's labeling all church girls and want to be mad, you can do that. But God has on my spirit when I was listening to it that this is a cautionary tale. She's showing what's going on out here. And it's something that we both sides need to look at. The young woman needs to look at herself and why she feels like she has to have a double life and can't be honest about what she's going through. Be honest, like we heard one of the pastors say, be honest with God and reason with him, right?
Right.
About what you need and what you want. If you don't like being between these two worlds, put it on the altar. Have God help you figure it out. And if you're in the church and you've given church hurt to a young lady, you said the wrong thing about her skirt or how she looks and don't even know her name, like Pastor Quick would say.
Right.
And it made her get more into her secular life than she is in her church life.
This is true.
Then we need to check ourselves and say, well, we might have caused some of this to be to the point where Beyonce has an anthem out. So, she's saying, hey, this exists. We can't act like it doesn't. Just saying it's not there doesn't mean it's not there. Right. Just acting like the young lady wasn't in the club last night, but now she's singing in the choir doesn't mean that's not what we all know is taking place. That is what has gone on. We see Miss Tina over there singing. She also was in the club last night. I remember.
Right.
And why? Because I was there too as a young woman. You know what I'm saying? There's a subculture in every community.
Right.
Beyonce singing to the young men and young women that are living that dual life. We can demify her and look at her a certain way, or we can say, thanks for shining the light on it. We didn't appreciate how the song was used because we look at our, Clark Sisters songs a certain way, but we get it. Glad you even knew they exist. Glad you understand. But we're going to take the church girl moniker back and say that the church girl that we are trying to, support and defend is a church girl, capital C. I don't know. It's a different kind of church girl that we are uplifting over here. And those that are a church girl that has a double life and kind of lukewarm in their religion and in their faith and in their faith walk, lukewarm in their faith walk, then we're going to pray for them. We're going to be welcoming when we see them, and we're going to help them any way we can.
See, that's all I was saying. Cause I was just like, why do we always have to demonize Beyonce? Love her. Listen, I'm not saying she's perfect. Like, she's human like everybody else. But I don't like when people try to demonize her and just say there's some times where she's just shedding a light on things. And we can either look at it and do, what you just said, to say, you know what, let's try to do better. Because obviously, like, we really didn't have an idea, but now we have a song about it. So let's try to do our best to be accepting and help them. Or we can do, like, what you also said, and then just demonize the person that's talking about it instead of, like, trying to fix the problem.
Yeah, because there's actors that take on many roles and actresses, right? And I never once, after finish watching that movie or TV show, say, oh my gosh, Angela Bassett, she just lives a terrible life. She goes from being like Tina Turner to being like, she's like, I don't know, was she coming or going? Now she's a cop and she can't even keep herself in a marriage. And she's not a character she's playing.
Right.
Singers do it all the time too. They play characters in their songs. They talk about life, and they talk about the life, and they put themselves in the position of that person, and they sing from that reference. Because right now, believe me, Beyonce ain't getting dressed up and going in the club with her girlfriends and trying to entice men to want to be with her. She's not doing that right now in her life. She's actually reading bedtime stories to her kids. She's actually cooking dinner. She's actually enjoying her husband, and probably has her face no makeup on, just enjoying her Sunday,
Right.
And probably got a word in this morning herself.
Right.
So I think, I'm not giving her a pass and saying that, everything she said is, I'm totally behind, right. But I do know what she's talking about is she's talking about that type of woman and that kind of stuff going on. And it does exist. Now, people can be mad that she's using her platform in this way. I get that. They can be like, I expected more from Beyonce. I get that.